Hey, Southern Male here. I know it's been a couple minutes since I put a video out, but I've been kind of wrestling with what I'm going to do with YouTube. But I finally decided, you know what, they want to shut this channel down because I'm going to start telling the truth and they can just turn it off. I'll be darned if I'm going to have a bunch of little pencil necks at a social media platform telling me whether or not I can speak the truth. Ain't going to happen, okay? But one of the things I want to talk to you a little bit about is ran into some blue pill fella who he's stuck in red pill rage, and I think he's stuck there for one reason only, and that is he really wants to have a family and white picket fence and 3-bedroom house, all that. And his MGTOW knowledge makes him understand that that's not a good way to go, but that's the desire of his heart. And all I could tell him was, you know, if you can't come out of the rage, you might as well go find your happiness where your heart lies and just take your risks. I think a lot of the guys today suffer from that. And my advice to you is, if you can't stand on your own and be an independent man, maybe it's time to move along. But really what I want to talk about, some of this MeToo nonsense that's going on out there. I love it. The article that Bloomberg put out, I'm sure all of you have heard about it. And that's where, you know, you've got Bloomberg, which is a reputable financial magazine, telling brokerage houses in Wall Street, you need to back away from these females and start watching what you're doing. That is a shame, okay? It truly is. Now, I mean, you know, don't sit next to a woman on a flight. Don't take her out to dinner, you know, to have business dinners with just a man and a woman. If you have to book hotels, rooms, book them on separate floors where the guy's on one floor, the woman's on another. Different things of this nature. And I'll tell you where they're headed to. And that is businesses are going to have to start segregating men and women for their own protection. Or they're going to have to kind of back away hiring women. And while they're going to have to make some major changes to do that, it is possible for them to get away with it. Now, everybody knows what sexual harassment is on the workplace. You don't come out and play grab ass with a woman, okay? I've worked for companies in the past who just, if they find out you're dating an employee, they'll terminate both of you. Just that simple. Just to alleviate that potential. Okay, but it's a two-way street. Guys get sexually harassed too. I've had women working for me in the past that decided to try to use their little vagina between their legs to climb the corporate ladder. And man, I'll tell you what, if a man's that stupid to fall into that trap, you just become her little puppet. You know, she has control over you now. She'll ruin your career. And, you know, she may turn around 20 years later and ruin your career anyway. So it's not worth it. Do not, repeat, do not have any sort of sexual relations or any serious personal relationships with a woman you work with. That's just career suicide, gentlemen. But like I said, guys face it too. Tell you a brief story. I used to be the guy in the office that'd always go around, and if there was a girl that got a new hairdo that was nice, or she was wearing a nice dress, I'd compliment her, you know, Southern manners. But I learned, I was manager of the engineering staff, had a young engineer, tried to get the receptionist to go out with him. Nice guy, kind of an introvert. But he'd bought tickets to a concert to what he had heard was her favorite band. But the concert was on a date when she had her sister's wedding. So she couldn't go. So he told her, well, and she told him it'd be nice and to, you know, let her know, and that she'd be happy to do it at a later date. Anyway, the fella, about 3 weeks later, asked her out again. Well, this time she told him no, that she Wasn't interested. She's in a pretty foul mood that day. We'd all commented on that. Next thing we hear, this guy's had a sexual harassment suit filed against him, or complaint with HR. Turns out this girl lied because me and the office manager was standing outside her cubicle when he asked her to go to the concert, and she lied about that whole thing, made up a story, fabricated the whole mess, and also fabricated a second story. We got involved in HR, and it all got dropped. Now, here's where I have my problem and where this engineer had the problem. About 3 weeks later, a very talented mechanical engineer, by the way, gave notice to the company. He went with another firm, stating that because this woman could go in there, blatantly lie, get caught in the lie, try to destroy his career, and she's still employed there as she was nothing but a glorified receptionist. Okay? He didn't want to work for a company like that. So I lost a top-notch engineer. Kind of ticked me off. But this MeToo nonsense, there's no time limit on it, man. I mean, you got these little gold-digging whores out of California that are coming back 20, 25 years later after they slept their way into a movie with some movie producer, turning around and trying to make it sound like he's an animal. Well, what the hell's that make her? You know what I'm saying? If a woman's truly being sexually harassed, what she should do is slap the boy in the face and walk the hell out and file a complaint. Then, not 20, 25 years later, after he's fulfilled his end of the deal. Okay? That's bullshit. And these women are doing this all over the place, and they're proud of it. And, of course, you know, a woman will never tell a lie. For God's sakes, it's not possible. It's not in their DNA. You know, women don't lie. So we're just automatically believe them. And you hear these feminist groups saying, well, if a man loses his job or gets his career ruined, so be it. You know, casualty of war, collateral damage. And it is a war, gentlemen. Okay? These women today, man, I'll tell you what, if you don't have video and audio surveillance in your house, don't bring one home. Okay? Consensual sex can turn into rape just because she's in the mood to claim that. Good God, don't meet her in a bar because she's had a few drinks, and after all, a few drinks is all she needs to say, well, she raped her. You know, that's a life sentence, gentlemen. Okay? Now, I'm not saying all women are like that. I'm saying all women have the potential to be like that. And are you willing to risk your future on this kind of shit? So businesses really need to start backing away a little bit, and they can do so. One of the suggestions I'd make for most entrepreneurs in business is to not have a female HR manager. Don't do it. And if you have one, find a way to get her out of that position. Get yourself a guy in there and give him some very simple instructions. I want you to hire the highest qualified individual you can for this job, and, you know, preferably it's going to be male, but I want the best professional you can find me. No more quota hiring. Cut it out. That's how most of these women get through the door. It makes the government happy, but it makes your business liable. Why go through it? Because let me tell you something. Sexual harassment costs companies a lot of money. Just in training alone. I mean, think about it. Most of you guys that are, if you're involved in corporations, how many cotton picking training seminars have you been to over sexual harassment? You get tired of hearing it. You know? You really get tired of hearing it. This feminist nonsense has just went nuts. And it's time that men start pushing back a little bit. You know? Just turn your back on them. Sad to say, but that's where you're going to have to go. It is getting too far out of control, and the courts are just getting nuts with it. Oh, I did want to bring up one thing. I'd ran across the graph here a while back and found it fascinating. It was back when the size of government was what they were talking about, of how it did this V shape, man. I mean, dropped way down, the size of government was really falling, and all of a sudden it shot through the roof. And I was like, what the heck? Started looking, and it was, when did women get the right to vote? Congratulations, that is when that downward turn of the size of government did a complete about-face and shot straight back up and has been climbing ever since. And I started doing a little reading on some of the first laws that were being passed and so forth and voted on by these women. And of course, there they were, alimony, lifetime, and child support. That was some of the first issues women had. It's like, oh, good grief, you know? And that was because a lot of times the men would end up with custody of the children because he was the only one who could afford to support them if she decided that, you know, she found herself another boyfriend or just didn't want to be married anymore. So they were looking for a way to, you know, so back at the suffragette movement, these women were setting themselves up to become, well, they called themselves independent, but what they were actually doing is using the government to steal your money to support their asses. That's it. That's the truth of the matter. Independent in my butt. Most of them are not independent. So this is where men need to start becoming men again. All right? There's nothing wrong with masculinity. Now, the shit you got going on in the city you call alpha males is nothing but PUAs and players. That is not what an alpha male is. An alpha male is an honest man with integrity who is a leader in his field and is a good man. That's what you need to become, not a damn player. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to start going, I've had enough of this shit. I'm not letting you risk my future and my business for your nonsense. And start quietly working your way through to make sure that your male employees are protected, because they are your valuable players. This MeToo is bullshit. We all know it's bullshit. We listen to the nonsense. And if men don't start standing up and say, what can we do? We can do a lot if we just stand up and push back. No longer tolerate this crap. Maybe men ought to start showing up at these feminist rallies in large numbers and shout them down. Let them know we're sick of listening to your crap. We're tired of you. It's time for you to get your shit together. You are not oppressed victims. You're entitled little bitches. And we're sick of hearing it. Now, there'd be a movement I could get behind. I'd be at every rally I could find. Okay? But you guys think on this a minute. And if you're a blue pill man that you've got to have that family and you can't get out of the rage because of it, move along, son. Go ahead and find that little woman. Good luck with it.